What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Hello, folks. Hello. Welcome, y'all. My name's Adam Manis. We are here. We are doing it. It is Saturday. It's a guided practice session. Get to your piano. You can get to your guitar or your vibes or your accordion or your organ as well. We do have some nice piano voicings for you, but this is really about harmony today. This is about some classic substitutions. So get to your instrument. While we're waiting, please put in the chat where you are practicing from in the world. I am in beautiful, if not a little muggy, St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown. Italy is in the house. France is in the house. Miami's in the house. London's in the house. What's up, Chayla in Oregon? What's up, Bethany? Yeah, we got a lot of material to get through today, but don't be intimidated. We're going to have a really good time. Let's see. What's up? Adrian, unable to download the PDFs. Any help? I know that Dan is probably in here in the chat. Adrian could probably help you out. We'll put him in the chat again. Should be pretty easily. Has anybody else got the PDF? Everybody's got the PDF. There's a PDF in the description. You're going to want it because it's robust today. It's a big PDF. We got a lot going on. We're just working on some basic stuff, though, which I like. By the time I made that PDF, I was like, I can't believe this PDF is so big. I can't believe it's 3 pages. It's crazy. Because we're just working on like secondary dominants and tritone substitutions, some of the basics, but we're really going to try to get them in our hand. Long Beach, California, Edmonton, that's in Alberta, Canada, Australia, Bogan, Australia, Nashville's in the house, Devon's in the house, New Jersey, Stockholm, San Diego, Vienna, what's up, Wolfgang? Hanoi's in the house, Namibia's in the house, the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, one of the most beautiful places on earth. Michelle's in the house. Germany's in the house twice. Australia's in the house. Bogengate. Chicago is in the house. Just up the road. Elvis is up in Chicago. Prescott's in the house, Wisconsin. Dan's in Nigeria. What's up, Dan? Israel's in the house. Mexico City's here. Paris is here, for real. Puerto Rico. What's up, Moscow? What's up, South Africa? Nice. Just subscribed a week ago in South Africa. Welcome. The Commonwealth of Virginia. They love saying the Commonwealth in Virginia. It does set them apart. Only a couple states have that. Ireland's in the house. Regards, Ireland. Stockholm's in the house. The Bahamas. Barcelona. Charlotte. That's a great city. World-class city right there, as is Budapest. Havana is here. India is here. Malaysia is here. Berlin is here. Phoenix is here. All over the world, people are here practicing. So get to it. We've got 1:45 seconds left before we start this session. What's up, Denver? What's up, Atlanta? What's up, Santa Rosa, California? Amsterdam. Come on through. Is everybody excited for the soccer tomorrow? The football finals? Got any sports fans in the house? We got the Euro and we got the Copa America, both wrapping up tomorrow. I'm excited about that. Been watching both of those tournaments. It's been really, that Euro tournament this year has been incredible. Slovakia is in the house. Small town, Texas. Michelle, you don't need to download the PDF, but it is going to be handy for you. Paraguay is in the house. Northern Spain is in the house. We got a minute left before we start this session. So get to your instrument. Get ready to practice. Thank you, everybody, for being in here. Also, while we're waiting, go ahead and smash the like button. It spreads the word of the session, gets a bigger group in here, some robust discussion. So hit the like button while you can. And if you haven't yet, you might subscribe to Open Studio. We're going live here all the time, at least once a week, and also releasing videos every day, if not multiple a day here. So Italy's in the house. Italy, wow, original chef's kiss, crown jewel of culinary delights in Italy. My favorite place. Massachusetts, Long Island. Hi from Lille. I don't know where that is, but that sounds very interesting. Holland's in the house. Come on through, y'all. Nick is saying, go England. It's going to be a good final. All right. that is it for today. Again, let's get to our instruments because this is a guided practice session. You're gonna want to be at your instrument. Oh, not that. Hold on. There we go. You're gonna want to be at your instrument because today we are working on classic chord substitutions. These are the basics of the chord substitution world. You're not going to want to miss this session because there's a lot of questions I think that might be answered, a lot of questions that might be raised, which is always a good thing. Remember, this work is never over. We're constantly adjusting, readjusting as we're learning anything. But with music especially, it is a lifelong pursuit. Trust me, I've been at it since I was 10, and it just never ends. The curiosity, the fascination with some of these sounds, it just gets deeper and deeper the older you get. So let's get to it today. I just want to give a shout out here because we love to make sometimes silly thumbnails for our videos here, and this will be up after this live session is over. But I just want to shout out Ian Martin, one of our main video editors, for making this incredible thumbnail that's based off of Chet Baker's 1959 album cover. Chet, where it usually says Chet there, Ian put Moo, and he slapped my face on it. And I think it's one of sometimes I go through my day and I say I've got a really cool job, and when I saw that I was like, my job is super interesting. I never thought as a piano player I would see that. That's just terrific. Okay. So we're going to be working on classic chord substitutions. So first of all, let's just ask ourselves a couple of questions. What is a chord substitution? What is it technically? What are we talking about? When we talk about chord substitutions, what do we mean? Well, we mean a chord that is replacing the expected chord in any kind of chord changes. So if you have a 2-5-1 in the key of C, right, a D minor 7, a G7, and a C, and that's part of the tune, right? You're playing something like Alice in Wonderland, and that's part of the tune, the 2-5-1 and C. Well, a chord substitution is when you would take any of those original, quote unquote, original changes, and you would substitute literally anything else. There's no prescribed, this is a chord substitution, it's got to be this chord. It can be anything. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. That's kind of the exciting thing about it, is it's meant to be unexpected. It's meant to be something that your ear perks up because your ear gets used to this sound, but then all of a sudden you give it like that sound, and it's like, whoa, that's not what I heard the 3 times before. So that leads us to our next question. When should we use chord substitutions? So that's really an artistic choice, when to use chord substitutions, and musicians use them in varying degrees and varying situations to great effect. Sometimes they'll just do one substitution one time. You hear this a lot in like pop music, right? In really good pop music, where it's like they'll have this like, very simple chord progression, something like this, right? In C, we've got like C, E minor, A minor, and they'll do one substitution just like one time in the song. They'll just do like, just to that. Instead of the E minor, they did this B flat, and you're like, what? Like it melts your face because your expectations are surprised. And that's really why you might use them and where you might use them. So you could use them if depending on what kind of music you're playing, you could write in chord substitutions into the arrangement, like in that example of a pop tune, right? They're not winging that. They're not like, the piano player is not just doing that and the bass player has to catch that in like a Sheryl Crow song right there. That's written into the song itself. So that could be part of your writing process or your arranging process, is using these chord substitutions. As if you're playing more improvisational music like jazz piano, you can use them on the fly. And in fact, it's kind of part of the conversation between you and the bass player and the soloist. If you're comping, they're going to introduce some ideas for substitutions. You could even suggest some things if you have a good relationship with them. But it can be spontaneous and on the fly. And that kind of leads me to my third question is, does the bass player have to know when you're doing these substitutions? Well, it depends. Some of them are part of the language of whatever music you're playing. And this can vary depending on the music. Like if you are, doing a pop gig, you can totally use some on the fly substitutions in certain places on vamps and things. Like you can suggest things, that's fine. On a jazz gig, there's a whole language of substitutions, and we're going to be using those as the basis of our instruction today. So we're talking about secondary dominants and tritone subs and backdoors and things like that. Most competent jazz musicians can hear those things as they happen and adjust on the fly. And even if you don't, that's okay, because a lot of these, like I said, are meant to surprise your ear. The tension is part of the fun, part of the game. So even if the bass player doesn't catch it, it's kind of no big deal. Like it's kind of not the end of the world if you're not on the same page with some of these. Some of these you would want to work out ahead of time because they're a little more elaborate and they sound better if everybody's kind of nailing them together. But some of them can be just like, I'm putting this in here, I hope you catch it. And so that's the fun for us as pianists and chordal instruments specifically. So that's kind of our FAQs for chord substitutions. What are they? They're substitutions you can put anywhere in an arrangement. You can put them in on the fly. And does the bass player have to know? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's kind of cool if there's a little bit of a rub. So that's that. Okay. Here is what we're going to do today. Like I said, we're going to be working on secondary dominants. We're going to be working on altered extensions, and we're going to be working on tritone substitutions. And at the very end, stick around for the miscellaneous where we put a bunch of things together. And then there's a really cool final thing that's going to happen on this session. So please stick around all the way to the end because I think you're going to dig it. So this is what we're going to talk about, what a secondary dominant is. We're going to talk about what an altered extension is. We're going to talk about what a tritone substitution is and all the different ways, not all the different ways, but a lot of different ways that we can use them. So let's get started here. We're going to introduce our chord progression, which is here number 1. So just look at these first 2 bars. We are in the key of F major, right? Key of F major, and we're going to use what's called the 3, 6, 2, 5. Right? So in the key of F major, that A minor 7, that's the 3 chord, right? That's the 3rd note up from an F major scale, and it's a minor chord if we're using all the notes of F major. That's the 6th chord, D minor 9 here. I'm using some pretty fancy voicings because I like pretty fancy voicings. That's our 6th chord, right? That's the 6th degree of F major. Our 2, the G minor 7, that's the 2nd degree of F major, and our 5. Now this is the diatonic version. There are no substitutions in number 1. This is straight down the middle. Everything is part of the key of F. This is where we want to start so that we can hear how this sounds. Let's start at number 1. Ready? I want you to play with me here. Now, if you can't play these voicings, play your own version of A minor 7, D minor 7, G minor 7, and C7. See if you can play your own 3, 6, 2, 5. Here we go. 3 and 4 and. So we want to get this sound in our head. This is like the control group. We're doing some science experiments here, which we kind of are with these substitutions. This is the control. This is the straight down the middle, no substitutions. And you know what? It sounds really good. Don't sleep on just the straight old diatonic stuff. One more time here for the control. Nice. Okay. So that's the control, just the 3, 6, 2, 5. This is going to be the basis for our entire practice today. Now we're in the key of F. This is a common turnaround that you might use at the end of a tune, especially like a jazz standard or a Great American Songbook standard. Also used in pop and R&B, this turnaround, you can just loop this endlessly at the end of a song as a vamp, and sort of it just continually cycles through before something very special happens at the very end. Okay, look at number 2 here on our sheet, right, on our secondary dominants. This is where we're going to start the practice of secondary dominants. Now, a secondary dominant is a dominant chord that leads to a diatonic chord in the key. So that means we're heading here in example number 2, right? We're heading to this G minor 7 in that second bar of example number 2. So we're gonna substitute, instead of D minor, we're going to do a D minor, or we're going to do, sorry, a D dominant 9, right? So this is outside of the key of F, right? There's no F sharp in the key of F. So this is outside of the key of F. A secondary dominant is any dominant chord that's not the primary dominant, in this case C7, which is part of the key of F, that leads to a diatonic chord, so a chord that is part of the key, right? That's kind of the definition of it. So it's got to be a fifth above or a fourth below your target, in this case, the 2 chord. This is like our very first baby step into substitutions. This is something that you might hear someone like Wynton Kelly substitute, or Oscar Peterson loves these kinds of substitutions, but also Stevie Wonder and a bunch of contemporary musicians as well. This is an easy way to make it sound like we're outside of the key, outside of the diatonic beauty of just all F, right? And into somewhere else, that F sharp. Let's just hear number 2. Let's play it. Here we go. 3 and. It's a whole different sound, right? Do that again. Some beautiful voice leading happening. Number 2. That's a secondary dominant substitution. Go back to number 1 so you can hear the original. Number one, with our D minor. Same chord, but with that F natural. Now try number 2. Dominant chord. It's a whole other thing, right? One more time at number 2. Whew. Okay, check out number 3. Number 3 we're going to add to the party here. So we've got our D9, right? That's still there. That's our secondary dominant. But now we're going to create a bit of a cycle of these dominant chords, because we can also, if we can do the D dominant chord going to a G minor, well, we can certainly do a G dominant chord going to our C7, right? That's called the 5 of our 5, yeah? So now we're going to start getting this really cool, almost bluesy sound of this cycle of dominance. Check it out. 2, 3, number 3. How great is that? Woo. One more time, number 3. Got this beautiful G13 voicing here. Go back to number 1. Number 1, check it out. Here's the original. Number 1. Everything is diatonic, everything is in the key. Let's do that again. Number 1, one more time. Just to get that F major sound in our head. Right? Now check out number 2. We're going to substitute a D9. Now number 3, we're going to add that G dominant as well. Isn't that great? Number 3 again. Man, that sounds so good. It's a whole other feeling. Now check out number 4. Number 4. That A is now a dominant. Now we have 4 dominant chords in a row. 4 dominant chords in a row. You can add some chromaticism, some of the inner voice movements. I'm adding some chromaticism from that F sharp. Isn't that great? Number 4, one more time. A7, D7, D7. Go back to number 1. Go back to number 1. So again, it's a little bit plainer, right? It's not as bright. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's all in the key of F. Now go to number 4, where they're all dominant chords. Number 4. Yeah, there's something really special about that. Whew. Last time, number 4. How great is that? Secondary dominants. I mean, it's literally the most basic thing you can do. You turn in this case, this 3-6-2-5, you can turn any or all of them into a secondary dominant. And it's just a beautiful sound. I mean, don't sleep on this very simple thing that you can do. Now, there's a little bit extra sugar that you can add to your recipe here by adding some altered extensions and maybe even sussing out some of these dominant chords. So this entire exercise that we have up here are all dominants, right? This is like number 4 from the previous slide. These are all dominant chords, but we're going to mess with adding some upper extensions that are altered and sussing out the third even, so that we have sus chords. This takes it from like a very happy, like bright, kind of bluesy sound into something different, into like a very Stevie Wonder-esque, a very Duke Ellington-esque, a very Jacob Collier-esque even, you might say. Right? So let's look at number 1. Here we have our A7, but we've got a 13 and we've got a flat 9. And we look at our 6 chord, D7. We've got that sharp 9 of our F natural. We've got our 2 chord. It's a dominant chord with a 13 and the flat 9. And we've got our 5 chord. It's got that sharp 9. And then check it out. You might notice here that the right hand is playing major triads. Here's an F sharp major triad, descending chromatically. So we've got F sharp, F, E, and E flat in this little cycle of our dominant chords here. And then in our left hand, we've just got like root and 7th, root and 3rd, root and 7th, root and 3rd. So this is a great way to add some tension to what you're doing. Check it out. Number 1. 1. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Do it again. It's really tense, right? It's a great way to substitute. Let me play one. Here's the first one, diatonic. This is the original, right? This is the control. I'm gonna do it again. Listen to me. These are all diatonic here. One more time. A minor, E minor 9. Right, this is the first one. Now listen to number 1 here on the altered extensions. Number 1. Totally different, right? Intense. It's screaming at us almost, you know? Try it again. Check out number 2. Number 2. Flat 13 sharp 9. Flat 13 sharp 9. Flat 13 sharp 9. Even more intense here. This is really aggressive. But it can be very, very useful. Number 2. Let me play one. These are all just unaltered dominants here. A7, D7, G7, C7. Let me do that again. Just the unaltered dominants so you can get it in your ear. Now play number 2 here. Now play number 2 here. Listen to the difference. Way more intense. Number 2 again. Okay, those are different ways you can use some of those altered extensions. I'm talking about the 9, the 11, the 13, but the flat 9, the sharp 9, the sharp 11, the flat 13, or the sharp 5, however you want to think about it. Those are so helpful for, again, altered extensions. Now, there's a caveat to this, which is like if you're accompanying someone and they're playing the melody straight, and you know the melody doesn't fit with your altered extensions, you might not want to do them. They could clash too much. Remember, you're there to serve the music and serve the soloist. You're there to accompany them and make them sound good. So the last thing you want to do is clash with what they're doing. If, however, you hear the soloist play, you know, something like some line with a lot of altered that you can hear is like very intense. It doesn't even have to match up exactly, but they're playing something that is kind of like stretching the harmony. Well, these are a go-to for that because they're going to add that tension to it. Now, if we look at number 3 and 4, this is a different way. We'll start with number 3. This is a different way to change up your secondary dominants. We're going to suss them out. We're going to use sus 13 chords. So this is like a dominant 7 with a 13 and a 9, right? But we're going to take that third C sharp here in our A dominant case, and we're going to suss it up to 4. So this makes this beautiful voicing. And I'm not even going to do any like fancy voice leading, because listen to this. I'm going to use this in big blocks that are jumping around. You know, we talk about like how we want to avoid big jumps sometimes, or things where the voice leading isn't super smooth. Sometimes you can use this to a great effect, though. Sometimes that opposite is true. And I just love the sound of these sort of big blocks that are the same shape, moving in fourths and in fifths, up in fourths and down in fifths. Let's try number 3. 2, 3, and check this out. This has more of an ambiguous sound, as sus chords often do, because there's no third. It's like, is it major? Is it minor? Is it dominant? I don't know. It's usually dominant, by the way, but because that third is not in the chord, it gives you like an unanswered question kind of feeling. So much. Okay, look at number 4. Look at number 4. We're going to combine our sus with our altered extensions. Number 4. So the first chord of each bar is a sus chord. The second chord has some kind of altered extensions on it. So our D7 has a sharp 9. We got our G7 sus. And our C7 has that flat 13 sharp 9. So now we're going to start mixing and matching some of these, and they sound so friggin' good. Again, if you're playing a solo, you're accompanying, or you're writing a tune and you want a time through the changes that's just a little bit different, or if you're just vamping a 3-6-2-5, throw this in there. Put this in the mix. Suggest this. Instead of just the regular old 3-6-2-5, all of these are an option. And you can mix and match and experiment with whatever you want. One more time. Isn't that great? Secondary dominants with their altered extensions and the sus chords. It's just a beautiful, beautiful way to practice chord substitutions. Now, let's move on. Actually, how's everybody doing? Good? Are we doing okay? I just want to check in here. Everybody's doing okay. Okay, good, good, good. I just want to remind everybody, actually, to, if you're digging this, like and subscribe. We go live here all the time on Open Studio. We release videos every single day of the week, practically. Not even practically, we do. Also, there is a PDF. You're going to want to download that. That's free for you to take with you. All of these are available in the PDF. It's a very robust PDF, and I encourage you to get it. Just wanted to shake it out, take a little bit of a break. We're doing a lot of good work here. Doing a lot of good work, right? And like I said, these are kind of the basics. Like, we're just starting, but how deep is that well of secondary dominance? I mean, that alone is like enough, and you don't have to change the root of anything. Notice that. We didn't change a single root. It was always A, D, G, C, A, D, G, C, just the different things you can do with A, D, G, C. So if you're a piano player and you're like, well, does the bass player need to know? In the case of those secondary dominants, no, not at all, because they're going to most likely, if they're a good bass player, be playing near the root. You know what I mean? So they're going to be like just supporting what you're doing. Okay, let's get back to it because I want to hit these tritone subs. So now we are going to start changing the root. If we look at number 1, this is, again, our control group, right? This is the diatonic way to do our 3, 6, 2, 5. So let's just get that in our ear again before we move on. Number 1, 3, and. Again, key of F. This is just the diatonic 3, 6, 2, 5. This could be a turnaround. This could be a vamp at the end. Some very simple root shell pretty voicings that we have here at Open Studio. It's important to get the basic version in your ears, because how do you know if something is, you know, off the beaten path if you don't know where the path is? You know what I mean? One more time here. Okay, let's look at number 2. Check it out. Okay, now we're getting into some real stuff here. So this is where we're going to really start to substitute out the root movement as well. Like I said, all of those secondary dominants, that root movement was always just A, D, G, C, A, D, G, C. Now we're going to do a substitution called the tritone substitution. Now they call it a tritone substitution, probably not for the reason that you think. So we have our A minor 7, and we've got our D minor 7. And remember, if we did a secondary dominant on our D minor 7, it would be a D7, right? So that's a D with an F sharp and a C. Now we can use a couple of different versions of a tritone substitution that'll work going to our G minor 7. The colloquial tritone sub is A flat dominant 7. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, it's because the root is a tritone away. Not actually. That's not the reason for it. The reason for it is because it shares this tritone of F sharp and C. D, the 3rd and 7 is F sharp and C. A flat, the 3rd and 7 is F sharp and C. By the way, A minor 6 is also a tritone substitution because it shares F sharp and C. It shares this tritone. That's why it's called the tritone substitution. This is also a tritone substitution going here. And there's a few others because they all include F sharp and C as the sort of crux of the voice leading. Fascinating, right? I always thought it was because of that tritone root movement. Not actually. It's part of it, and it's easy to remember, but it's a really cool way to get some beautiful movement. Now, the easiest way to remember the colloquial tritone substitution is that it approaches our target chord with a dominant chord from just a half step above. So we're just like sliding in to our target. So our target in this case is G minor 7, the 2 chord. We're going to slide into that with that dominant 7 from that half step above. Let's check out, actually, let's do number 1 again. We'll do number 1 twice, and then let's go in the number 2 so we can hear the difference. Number 1, 2, 3. Let's get the control going in our ear. One more time. Okay, number 2. Here's our tritone substitution. I'm going to tritone out that D. How good is that? You got that chromatic bass movement. Listen to that root movement goes down chromatically. Our ear is drawn to those chromatic movements, right? It really adds a lot. Now again, do you need to tell the bass player you're doing this? No. In most cases, when you're playing in a jazz context, you don't need to tell the bass player you're going to do this. You can just do this, and the bass player will catch it. Also, a bass player might suggest this as well. And if you know what this is, you'll go right to it. You know, if you have this in your hands, in your ears. So that's our first tritone substitution. Let's look at number 3. So number 3, we're going to keep that A flat 13, right? That's the tritone substitution of D7. And now we're going to tritone sub out our G minor. You know, we're going to think about that as G7, but we're going to do a D flat 9 chord here instead. Again, the root is a tritone away from G7, but it shares that same third and 7 with G7. And also a great way to remember it is it's a half step above our target of C, right? So the G7 and the D flat 7, they're both perfect dominant chords to lead us to any kind of C chord. In this case, it's the C9. Let's try number 3. 1, 2, 3, and. You're gonna like this one. This is just as valid as number 1. Isn't that cool? Let's do number 1. Number 1, the control. Number 3. Number 3. One more time. Isn't that great? So now we've got 2 of the chords tritones subbed out. Let's do a third version. Number 4, we're going to tritone sub out that A minor 7, right? The secondary dominant was A7. The third and the 7th is G and C sharp, 7th and 3rd, right? Tritone away E flat. 3rd and 7 is exactly the same, G and C sharp or D flat. Now we have a whole different, instead of this, we've got this. Now we're still ending up on a C7, and I'm not going to change that for this purpose because it's going to get a little too nebulous, but right, we're doing kind of a similar fourths movement, but everything is tritone subbed out. It's pretty killing. Let's do number 4. 2, 3, and. Again, number 4. Again. Whew. Okay, check it out. Check it out. Go back to number 1. We're going to do a little bit of a exercise here. Number 1. Imagine you're vamping. Number 1 again. Play the right chords. All dominant chords on number 1. All secondary dominants. Now do number 4. Number 1. We're just vamping here. Number 4. How great is that? You can hear. So we did one that was just straight down the middle, the control. Sounds like this. We're soloing on it. Everything's very F major. We want to do substitutions. Number 4. It's got some juice to it, you know? Okay. You can see where the sound comes from and why it's used so much, right? Because we can use these principles and we can make this beautiful stuff out of it. Let's check out how we can combine. I was just kind of doing it there in my last example. We're going to combine now the tritone sub and the secondary dominant combinations. These are just examples, right? You're seeing that there's a lot of mathematical possibilities about which you can do and the extensions and all the things you can do. Don't get overwhelmed with that. Like I said, this is like just exploration for our lives. I don't have all this stuff in all 12 keys. I might never, but I'm constantly working to get more and more familiar with this as I get more experience. Let's do number 1. We're just going to hear these and listen to them. So here we have a combination of our diatonic chords, of our secondary dominants with altered extensions, and of tritone subs, right? Number 1. 2, 3, and. Right, here's our alter extension, tritone sub. This is a great example. Try number 2, tritone sub, altered extension. Ooh, sus. Altered extensions. Number 2. Isn't that great? Number 2 again. One more time. Again, tritone subbing out the A, secondary dominant, altered extension, sus, secondary dominant. Cool. Number 3. Secondary dominant, sus, secondary dominant, sus. This one's so simple, it's so cool. Makes me happy. Number 4, everything is sus, chromatically down, right? Our A7 is tritone sub. Our 6 chord is just sus. Tritone sub, sus. Jeez Louise. My favorite. That should say 3 dominant. Sorry, it says flat 3. So I just want to be clear again. This number 4, it sounds so out. It's the same thing as our 3, 6, right? And it can be interchanged and substituted. Stay tuned. Don't forget, we got a big thing at the end. There's a big reveal at the end. You don't want to miss it. Okay. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's so much fun. I've got one more slide here. It's our miscellaneous slide. These are just some fun things we're going to do. These are some, definitely some idiomatic substitutions that, it's not that they don't have a category, but it's just not robust enough for a big slide. So the first one, number 1, is the chromatic 2/5. You hear this a lot in bebop, a lot of Bud Powell. So literally we're playing our A minor, our 3 chord, and instead of the D7, we're just doing a chromatic 2/5, A flat minor 7, D flat 7, which is chromatically above G minor 7. There's a few different ways that you can do this, but this way is my favorite. Try number 1. Number 1. 2, 3. Again, very bebop, hard bop sound. The descending chromatic 2/5. Beautiful sound. This should be a go-to as well. Like if you're playing a rhythm changes. Stop. So if you're playing a rhythm changes in the key of B flat, you know, you got like a 1, 6, 2, 5, and then maybe you do like a 3, 6, 2, 5. Instead of doing 3, 6, do 3, and then a D flat minor 7, G flat 7 to the C minor 7, F7, golden. All right, number 2, this is one of the most underrated movements in all of jazz piano. This is the flat 3 diminished. This is everywhere. And most people, I don't think, understand exactly why it's so powerful, but it's so powerful. Don't sleep on number 2 here in the miscellaneous category, because it will open up a world of beauty for you. It's the flat 3 diminished. In this case, again, we're in the key of F. It is the A flat diminished 7. Listen to this. 2, 3, and. Just gorge. Gorge. I mean, you can hear this in so many mid-20th century standards. And it's just so beautiful. The older I get, the more I appreciate this flat 3 diminished sound. It's actually like a secondary dominant going to the 5. It's like a 5 of 5. I don't want to get too deep in the theory, because the 2 is just the 5. So this is really just acting as a part of the family of dominants heading to C7. It's like a G7 flat 9, really. Something like that. But it's just 100% gorgeous. Okay, so that's our flat 3 diminished. One of the most gorgeous chord progressions in all of existence. Again, if you're vamping on a 3-6-2-5, this should be in your arsenal, that flat 3. All of these should be. Okay, next we're going to get into some fun open studio stuff. It's the mu chord. It's, you know, we can't do a harmony session without a little open studio mu. Again, the open studio mu is a major triad where we add the 9 or you add the 2 with a 3rd in the bass. Bit of a modern sound here. You're not going to hear a lot of bebop musicians playing this, but that's okay. This is an incredible sound. Check out number 3. 3 and... What's up to Jonathan McReynolds here? How great is that? Man, I'm in love with the mu. I don't care who knows it. So there's the mu. Again, we're treating that as it's a secondary dominant. It's like a D chord heading to the G, but we're going to mu it out, meaning that we put the 3rd in the bass. The F sharp is the 3rd of the D, going to, so it gets this beautiful chromatic motion. All right, now we're going to go crazy with the mu. We're going to do some tritone descending, tritone sub, and we're going to tritone sub 2 of the chords so that it descends into this mu-tastic. Here's how it sounds. 2, number 4, 3, and... And you're like, what? This is still a 3-6-2-5? How is it possible? It is. That E flat is a tritone sub of our A. The D flat is a tritone sub of our D. Let's play our control. Let's play our control. So A minor 7, check it out. D minor 9, G minor 7, C7. Let's do that again, just to get the control back on our head. And now play number 4. Play number 4. Ready? You're welcome. Play number 1. Play number 2. Flat 3 diminished. Play number 3. Our mu sub. And play number 4, our descending moves. Oh, BRW. Don't spoil it. Okay, you ready? Here's the big reveal at the end. Here we go, you ready? Not now, not now. One more time, one more time. Here's our 5 chord. F major. I was seeing how long I could go, and it was 45 minutes before we hit an F major, but we just did. That'll do it. Just need a minute. Oh, that was a lot of build up to that chord. Ugh. All right, thanks everybody. We do have a live chat going. I'll take some questions now for the live chat. I got my coffee. Any questions? That was a satisfying F major chord, though, wasn't it? You build up tension that long. It's like when the couple finally gets together in the rom-com. It's about time. Any questions about any of this or anything else? I'm going to hit the chat. Amok64 says, is the first miscellaneous called 2/5 parallel? Yeah, it's descending or chromatic 2/5 parallel 2/5s. Yeah, you could call it that. The mu is called the mu because it's based on a Steely Dan chord called the mu, like the Greek letter mu, mu. And so I was teaching it for like a year with the third in the bass. Like this is an inversion. So the Steely Dan chord, the mu, is like on a C, mu. It would be C, D, E, and G, right? Or D, E, G, and C for an inversion, right? So it's like a major triad with that 2 added. And Steely Dan, the band Steely Dan, Donald Fagen specifically, called it the mu. And I was teaching it, including this inversion, which has the third on the bottom and the rest of the chord up here as the mu for like a year. And then someone in a chat said, well, actually, Donald Fagen talked about the mu once and said that technically the second and the third, they have to be right next to each other for it to be a mu chord. So this technically isn't a mu. I got a smoke alarm going off. Hope everything's okay. All right, this, because the third and the second aren't the same, it's technically not a mu chord. So I said, well, if they get to make up names for chords, then we here at Open Studio get to make up names. So if there's no name for this and it's really close to the mu sound, we'll just call it the moo, M-O-O, like a cow, because we're silly gooses. So, yeah. Mark says, do you have a shortcut to learning altered extensions? There's no real shortcut, Mark, but if you spend some time with them, you will notice some triad shapes that will really help. So like, I'm going to go back to those altered extensions so that you can see what I'm talking about. So there are, with all altered extensions, there can be triads that can help you get there, Mark. So like if we look at our A13 flat 9 there, so that's an F sharp triad over the root and the 7th. So if you work on this, so that F sharp, it's a minor third down from A. So you could kind of memorize that pattern, and you've got the root in the 7th and then an F sharp triad. And you could say, okay, well, what if I were to do this in like F, right? So I've got the root in the 7th, and I got the triad, a major triad that's a minor third down, that's a D triad. So you can kind of work these triads. Same thing here, the D7, got the root in the 3rd in the left hand. It's an F triad, right? So if you want a sharp 9 chord, you can think about, okay, well, that's the major triad, a minor third up with the 3rd in the bass. So you have these options. There's also A flat. There's a bunch of cool things you can do with those triads. It's an easy way. Same thing here, like even with the susses, you could do a G triad for like a A11 sus kind of sound. Triads are your way to go. It takes some exploration and there's a lot of options, but that's what I would start with. Let's see. Yesman says it's easier for me to think a major 6th above for some reason. Understandable. Plan for Uga says, how about a meow chord? Coming. I think we did a meow with Peter. We did a meow. What was it? Oh, it was yeah. It was this. This is the meow chord. So it's a moo, but Peter likes to add the major 7 on top. And so we called it the meow. Because, again, we're idiots. But yeah. Kiddo asks, what scales do we mostly need to learn for the melodic aspects of the riffs and licks in the transitions between the chords and the cadences? Well, Kiddo, that's kind of, again, a lifetime of learning the language melodically. All of the chords that I played have, in traditional like Berkeley-esque chord scale theory, have a scale associated with it. It's probably a little too much to get into all of them here, but that is a path of study that you might consider, that sort of chord scale theory. The other way that you could study that is just to study the language of this. When someone plays a cycle of dominance, like if Lee Morgan plays around that, what is Lee Morgan playing? That's the question I often ask myself. What are the greats playing on these kinds of changes? It takes a little bit more work, but it is very rewarding to learn the sort of like the syntax and the vocabulary from the masters, David says, it just about makes sense because we are starting from the secondary dominant and swapping it out for the tritone. But how do you think of these other substitutions on the fly? So the miscellaneous ones, if that's what you're talking about, David, those are, again, idiomatic, right? Those are like that parallel 2/5. That's a thing you'll hear. Again, people like Bud Powell do. It's a lot in like Art Blakey's music. The flat 3 diminished is in a ton of tunes. That's a flat 3 diminished in My Romance. It's in so many tunes, but it's everywhere. So you just kind of get, that's a repertoire thing. If you learn some repertoire, you'll see these substitutions in action and you'll be like, oh, when on this Bud Powell tune, every time he's going from the 3 to the 2, there's no 6 chord. He's using this like parallel 2/5. Okay, I could probably use that. Like, you're basically stealing from repertoire at that point, which is a great way to learn music. Same thing with even the Moo. If you listen to more modern things, I shouted out Jonathan McReynolds, who's an incredible modern gospel artist and uses those like third and the bass add to Moo chords left and right. It's a great effect, and a bunch of other great harmony too. He's a incredible musician. So finding examples in real life and like how do people use them who are using their ears, and then you can sort of take that for your own. Amake64 says, what's the best way to integrate this combinations? Practice each combination. Yeah, also explore the combinations. Come up with your own. That's the fastest way, is to start composing your own versions of these. These are just things I came up with this morning as I was thinking about it. It's almost unnatural, because if I were improvising these, I would be listening to things that were happening in the moment and being inspired. And I might do some stuff that doesn't make any sense too, because that could sound good. And so I would say come up with your own theory book on these, even if it's very, very simple. Okay. Brendan says, is 4 keys good to take this through? Yeah, any key change, any transposition is so good for your playing, for learning and retaining the information you're trying to work on, but also just for your general musicianship, Brendan. Any kind of work transposing is will cause light bulbs to go off for you. So I can't stress that enough. Like, that's why I say take it through all 12 keys and you're good to go. And people joke like, oh, that's easy to say. No, it's not easy. It's not. It's very difficult. And that's why I say it, because like the concepts themselves can be fairly simple, but when you start to like, can you do this in the key of B? That makes you learn music on a deeper level, to where you will be able to improvise in any situation. And people sleep on this, but it is super crucial. A lot of the best, I see Peter Martin's here in the chat. Peter Martin has these videos where I call out tunes. I don't think we've made one with the key change yet, but we flirted with it. Like, I call out a tune in a key and he can just play it. Now, can he do that because he's Peter Martin, or is he Peter Martin because he can do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what came first there? He's obviously has spent time musically getting all these things together and understanding the relationships. So he actually doesn't have to think a lot when he's improvising because he can hear everything and knows where it is on the keyboard seamlessly, right? That's the work you're doing. So there's that. Okay. Okay. Great session, y'all. Thank you so much for your time today. I will be back on Monday with another live on Open Studio Pro, the Repertoire Club. We are working on Antonio Carlos Jobim's Wave. We might be working on some substitutions this Monday, folks, going deeper and applying these to a real tune. So I know we have some Open Studio Proers in the house here, so look forward to that. But yeah, cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday.